So today I want to talk about what being booked out is actually costing you. And there's multiple hidden costs, but there's three main ones that I want to talk about. Let's pretend that I asked an epoxy contractor how business is going, and he tells me that he's booked in the next spring. It happens rather often. He says it the way you'd say it, proud, a little relieved, like the answer to the question is obviously good. And every time I hear it, I think the same thing. That guy is losing more money than the one that's slow. He just can't see any of it. So here's what I want to go through today. I want to go through three things that are true about a decorative concrete or coating contractor booked all the way out, all of which are invisible from where he's standing. I want to talk about why the busiest guy in the market is usually the one that's leaving the most money on the table and what to actually do about it, which is not what most people would guess. If you're booked out right now and feel good about it, this one's for you specifically. So what's the first thing and the most expensive one as well? Somebody calls you today and they want their garage done, and you tell them the truth. Hey, look, we're booked out until March. So what does that person do? They hang up and they call the next guy. Now, here's the part that matters. You never actually find that out. There's no record of that call anywhere that you have access to. You didn't lose a bid. You didn't get outpriced. You didn't even enter a competition. That person just quietly went somewhere else and you had no idea that that happened. And then multiply that every week that you've been booked out, right? That's the most expensive kind of leak that there is because you can't even see it, you can't count it, and it doesn't show up anywhere in your numbers. Your revenue actually looks fine. You know, you're still doing jobs and everything, right? So you're busy. Everything reads like everything is fine. And there's a line of people who wanted to give you money walking past your door every single week. Now, what's the second thing? And this one is free money that you're giving out. If demand at your current price is overflowing and it's got you months out, the market is telling you something very specific. It's saying that your price is too low. Now, hear me out with that. That's exactly what a waiting list actually means. People are willing to wait most of a year rather than go somewhere else, right? That's a signal about what your work is worth, and that's a loud one. Most contractors in that position, they're going to hold their price anyways, partly because raising it is going to feel risky when the things are going well, partly because nobody ever told you that the backlog was actually a permission slip for you to be able to raise your prices. Once you see that, you should be raising your prices. So here's the question that I'd ask you. When your calendar filled up, did you bump up your rates or did you just get busier at the same number? If it's the second one, you took on more work, more material, more labor, more wear on your crew and your truck, and more of your own hours as well went to doing all that work. And your margin per job is exactly what it was when you were hungry still. So you scaled all of the work, but you didn't scale the money. And then there's the third one. This is the ceiling. Booked out on word of mouth with no system underneath it means that your growth is going to be capped at your own two hands. Just think about what you don't have when you're in that spot. There's no wait list, right? Somebody who can't wait until March, they just leave. There's nowhere to really put them. If you don't take deposits, there's no deposit to hold a slot. So even the ones who say that they'll wait aren't actually committed and they haven't put any skin in the game. And then some of them fall off before their date even comes up, right? I'm sure you understand and I'm sure you know about this. And then there's no price ladder. There's no faster option at a higher number for the person who needs it done in 3 weeks and would actually pay you to get it done that fast too, right? You're just booked out and you can't really make any moves, can't take extra money to get quick work done. And then there's no path to a second crew, a third crew, a fourth crew, whatever you need, at whatever levels you're at, because you've never built anything that could actually run without you inside of the job. You have to be present essentially because you've never stopped and taken the time to build out what you need to build out. So that way it can run without you. That's a business running at its absolute ceiling. And the ceiling is however many hours you personally have to be able to put into it. And I'm sure you know exactly what that is as well, right? So the busy part, that feels like success, but structurally, it's a lot closer to survival with just a little bit better cash flow. So like, why does nobody ever say this to you, right? I want to explain that to you. Everyone who talks to you when you're booked out backs off. Marketing people back off because there's nothing to sell you. You don't need leads. And that's their whole product, right? Other contractors don't say anything because being booked out is the thing that everyone is trying to get to too, right? And your own instincts, that's going to back off as well, right? Because things are going well and the last thing you want to do is mess with it. So the guy with the most to gain from a real conversation is the one nobody's having it with. The contractors that are booked a year out have the widest gap between what he earns right now and what the same business could earn. The widest of anybody that I talk to. So here's what I'd actually do in order. The first thing you need to do is raise your prices on new quotes, not on the work that you've already committed to. Don't go back and do that, right? But on the next one that you send, make sure that you're raising those prices and then watch what happens. If your backlog is 8 months, you have enormous room to test this. And the worst case is that your calendar thins out a couple months and you can fix that, right? Honestly, nothing to lose. And that's kind of what you want anyways. That's what we're talking about, right? Being booked out that far is kind of bad. So let's raise your prices, get you a little bit more money for the same work that you're doing. It means that you've grown. It's a good thing, but I digress. And then if you don't have this already, you want to put it in a way for people to be able to hold a slot with you, right? Like taking a deposit, making them sign a contract, something. Right now, the people waiting on you, they're not actually your customers unless you get some kind of a commitment from them, some kind of deposit from them or something along those lines, right? And then build somewhere for the people who don't want to wait, a wait list that you can actually work, right? A faster tier at a higher price. Even just a real conversation about scheduling instead of I'm booked out until March. Sorry, and then start counting, track how many people call and don't book right away because you can't fit them in their schedule. Right now, that number is 0 in your records and enormous in reality. You cannot fix a leak you've never measured. And I do them in that order specifically. The price change is first because it costs you nothing to try and it's going to pay off immediately, right? You'll know inside of a month whether your market cared about your price being so low or not. And then the counting is the last because it's the one that takes a few weeks to tell you anything. But it's the one that changes how you think about the whole business because after 90 days, you'll finally have a number for the thing that's been invisible this entire time, right? So again, those 4 moves is to first raise your price, then get a deposit for them to hold a slot, then build a wait list and you charge more to get that work done faster, have like a specialty team on the side that can just knock it out, whatever you need to do, but not really be assembled unless you're taking that money to get that rush work, right? And then again, start counting as well. Get some form of tracking into your business, your system, whatever you're working with, right? And I know that somebody is going to say, hey, look, man, I'm slammed and I don't have time for all of this. And that's fair, but it's also backwards. The time when you should be building out a system or a process for this kind of stuff is when you're actually busy, because busy is when you can actually afford to do it, right? Think about what happens when you're not busy, right? Right now, when you are busy, you've got cash coming in and a calendar full enough that losing a couple of price shoppers costs you nothing in the long run, right? The contractor who waits until things slow down is building it under pressure, out of fear, and with less money, and they're going to be making worse judgment calls, right? Every guy that I've worked with who built it while he was busy will tell you the same thing. It was the least stressful version of that project he was ever going to get out of his business. Some of these things just really don't change. So if you're booked out and you feel good about it, that's good, right? That's a real achievement, and most people never actually even get there. Just know what it's actually costing you while it lasts. The people who won't wait are going somewhere else and you'll never meet them again. And your price is almost certainly below what the market just told you it would pay. And the whole thing is capped at your own 2 hands until you build something underneath it. And something underneath it means more than just a couple of installers, right? But obviously, busy is a good problem. I'll say that all the time. Busy, that's a good problem to have, but it is still a problem, right? So if you want to find out what it's costing you specifically, that's the sort of thing that we look at here. We run a free revenue leak audit where we check your business and we can find where your revenue is leaking out. And it takes 15 minutes. So get that information. It'll let you be able to act on what you're seeing. I'll leave the link in the description. And if this was useful, make sure you subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.